Cello Tip Tuesday live stream. Woo, woo, woo. I hope you all are having great discoveries in your practice room. Hello to my dolls on Instagram and to my dolls watching on YouTube. So after last week, I'm a little worried and want to make sure my dolls on YouTube can hear me because the sound setup is a little more complex. Excellent. Hello, everybody. I am so excited to hear that you all are excited. Thank you for the encouraging words right off the bat. Oh, someone's in Australia and it's Cello Tip Wednesday. I love that. Never a bad time for some cello tips, regardless of the day of the week. So, what do we got? What do you dolls want to know about? Any questions on the music industry? Questions on cello technique? Chelly is here to demonstrate. He loves being the center of attention. And also just feel free to share about any practice room wins, anything successful, anything you might be struggling with. This is a safe space. You can always share. I know I've had my fair share of practice room woes. So I have been there, my dolls. You can tell me what is going on. Hello. Hello, friends. Oh, such kind words in the comments. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I just want to check the Instagram chat. I have a new hack for my phone, so hopefully it doesn't fall over this week. I just said that and totally jinxed myself. Hello, hello, hello. You guys are saying thank you, and I haven't even demonstrated anything yet. Chelly wants to say hello, of course. All right. So, got some great questions. I see them popping in, which is exciting. So, what was the first song you played? Wow, you're really testing my memory there. The first song I played, to be honest with you dolls, it was probably Twinkle. I'm pretty sure the first song I learned was Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star Variations, or it was French folk song. I can't quite remember which one came first, but I grew up learning the repertoire from the Suzuki books. I wasn't taught fully in the Suzuki method, but I did learn out of the repertoire. I learned the repertoire from the Suzuki books. And for those of you who played from Suzuki, what I mean by twinkle variations is you played Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but you did it with different rhythms. So we know it, and of course with the variations, that is 16th, 16th, sixteenths and eighth notes, or Mississippi Hot Dog, which was my favorite. Mississippi Hot Dog, Mississippi Hot Dog. So yes, that was the first one I played. I saw some more things in the Instagram chat. Okay, so I'm reading verbatim here. Okay, so funny story. I had my first ever concert on Monday last week. Yay! First concerts. Oh no, and my my A string broke 5 minutes prior to me playing. Thank God I didn't use that string in the song I was playing. Oh no! Oh my goodness, I'm sorry that happened for your first concert. So, summary, a fellow cello-loving doll had an A string break right before going on stage, it sounded like. Oh my goodness. So, I'm very glad you were using the lower strings on your cello. And, you know, sometimes things like that just happen, and it's really hard to get back into the performance zone, and it just happens. So I still hope you enjoyed your concert regardless of that tiny instrument malfunction. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, out of all the strings that could have broken, I'm glad it was the one you weren't using. That's kind of a very humorous twist of fate, if you will. So I am very glad it wasn't the string you needed. I still hope you enjoyed the performance regardless. And it's a story you're going to remember forever. And if you become a teacher, you can tell your pupil that story. Someone else who also broke a string, you dolls can find it on YouTube. Jacqueline Dupre, I can't remember the orchestra, but she was playing Dvorak Concerto, and she got to the third movement, and she has this, the cello part has this big entrance for the third movement, and she got, I think she got snap, squeak, and her A string broke in the very big opening. And for those of you who know Dvorak Concerto, you have to sit there for quite some time with all the movements, but especially 1 and 3. There are long orchestra introductions. So she's waiting this long stretch of time, and she finally comes in and her A string broke. Well, she went off stage, and I believe she changed her string, came back and did the movement. So it happens to everybody. And, you know, when you have a cello legend like that and they kind of roll it off their shoulders and keep going, it's inspiring for us to see them have a human, quote unquote, human moment on stage, you know? So if you can find that YouTube video, it is super funny. And of course she handles it like a champ on YouTube. I'll try to find it and put it in the comments after the stream. Okay, so I went on a giant tangent and now I'm behind on questions. So I will go to YouTube. How do you play differently Baroque and classical? You just launched a question that I could do a whole hour on. I'll try to condense it. So to answer your question as concisely as I can, back in the Baroque era, the instruments were different and the bows were different. So what we're playing on right now, when you see strings in an orchestra, a traditional classical orchestra, these are actually pretty modern instruments, quote unquote. They might have developed a little bit since the 1700s, but if you go before that, the instruments were different. They didn't project as much. They used gut strings. Yes, gut, G-U-T. They weren't a metal material. And the bow was actually much more curved. And as a result, I mean, if you look at the bow, it looks straight, but if you really narrow in, it does have a little curve to it. But instruments back then couldn't really project, and players weren't using vibrato yet. And no, oh, they apologize. Their question is too wide. No, I love it. I love it when you dolls ask questions That way I can talk a lot and sound like I know my stuff. So thank you. No, it's great. I think it's great. So the big debate of classical playing versus Baroque playing comes into the conversation when you play Bach. So I'm going to get to that in a second. But if I were to play, let's take the second suite prelude. You often play with a brushier sound, an airier sound, and you don't use a lot of vibrato, if not any vibrato. And to kind of get that more intimate, airier, delicate sound, I would probably play a little closer to the fingerboard. And again, if I really wanted to be super authentic, I would get a viola da gamba and a Baroque bow, and I would have gut strings. But if I had to emulate that on this, again, modern instrument, then I would play maybe more. Now, on that long note, I might use some vibrato. But again, I probably shouldn't. But we don't, the thing about history, a lot of it can be like a game of telephone. Like, when was the very first instance of vibrato used? I don't know if we know that. So it's kind of hard, but if I were to just play it without vibrato, and because the instruments couldn't project a lot, your dynamic range is going to also be a little bit narrower. So you might not be able to play 2 or 3 Fs or fortissimo. You might be able to do pianissimo to mezzo forte as your loudest. So if I were to play the Bach modern day, knowing the knowledge we know about playing and really playing into my modern instrument, vibrato here, as opposed to. And the other thing, since the bow was much more curved, you would get you get these delicate swells in there. And now, of course, we're taught a lot to not do that, but because of the way the bow is designed, you would get this natural swell in the middle. And so if you're playing shorter notes, like the Brandenburg concertos, Bach's Brandenburg concertos, I know that's, what are the notes? I know I'm not quite playing the right notes. I'll just use that motive. I'm trying to play with a little bit of articulation, but mostly air behind the sound, and so I call this the Nike bow, where I do the impulse and then I kind of ride the resonance. So instead of holding it down, I do a little check mark. Instead of, and that's more of a horizontal flap bow. So that is something to think about. Something like that. And I'm thinking about that kind of gusty sound for the shorter notes. not super in the string, gooey and connected. That's not really going to give you a Baroque sound. So that is the quickest way I can answer it. And there's this big debate on, well, how should we play Bach? You know, a lot of people, the way they perform Bach, you wouldn't hear it that way if you went back in a time machine and could watch a concert where someone played Bach. The instruments don't have the capabilities of our instruments. So some people actually believe you should play Bach as if you're on a viola da gamba. You should not have any vibrato. You should really be mindful of your dynamic range. And it's a debate. It's things people talk about. You know, should we completely play something as if we are in that time because that's the context it was written? My opinion is I'm in the camp of if Bach knew this instrument would exist, I think he would be so thrilled with the way it is able to project and resonate. And because Bach, for those of you who might not know, during his time, Bach was a famous organ improviser. He would go into towns and win improvising competitions. Yes, technology, someone wrote in all caps, exactly. And the organ is able to sustain for a long time. I mean, maybe not as, again, back then it was an older organ model, but organs were powerful and they resonated and they filled a cathedral with sound. If Bach knew the cello could do that, I think he would love it. I think he would love the use of vibrato to make the instrument open up. So given Bach's background in history, I don't think it's an offense to use vibrato in Bach and classical romantic playing in Bach. I really don't think so. And of course, there are people out there who are going to disagree with me, but that's my take on it. And whenever I make a choice like that, I really try to think about the composer too. Again, Bach was an organ. The cello can roar like an organ. I'm sorry, I'm going on such a nerdy tangent, but the third suite, C major prelude. That's an organ. He's writing an organ part for the viola da gamba. I mean, can't you just hear the organ, the chords resonating and resonating, da 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 da, it just filling up a church. I think he's emulating an organ. I truly believe that. So again, someone might say, well, maybe you're making a narrative to fit what you want to do. But no, I really think Bach's background with the organ is very important to consider. So I played Bach with vibrato and full tone. The end. Okay, next question. Wow. We went places together, my dolls. Wow. Okay. I'm going to go to Instagram. Were you a natural at playing cello or did you have a teacher? That is... Oh, good. The person who broke their string said they had a blast at the concert. And I love it. They refer to themselves as string breaking person. In parentheses. I love that. I'm so glad you had a fun experience with your concert and they played My Heart Will Go On. Oh, I love ballads with cello. Oh, I'm sure it was beautiful. And what a great piece for working on your tone quality and sound. Very kind comments on YouTube as well. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I could answer your question and give you a little more insight. Yeah, relating the music to the composer, you can really go deep into researching stuff, but it can really help how you play it. It really can. Okay, so I saw a question, was I a natural cellist or did I have a teacher? And this leads to a fun story. So I grew up was a baby. So from when I was born was around the same time my older sister started playing the violin. So pretty much from the moment I was born, I was hearing a violin throughout the house. And one day, my sister, I believe I was 1.5, so my sister would have almost been 6. She was practicing the violin, and we had a child in our neighborhood crash their bicycle into our yard. And they were okay. They were okay. It was a little spin out, but they were absolutely fine. Nevertheless, my mom and sister went outside to go help her, and I was a little baby, and my mom said she heard music coming from the house. And she goes, well, the violinist is out here. What's going on in the house? And by the time she went back, apparently I took my sister's violin, I held it vertically, and I was playing back and forth. I've posted a photo of it on my Instagram, but it's been a while, so I might post it again. And so here's the reason I'm telling this story is, would I have picked up the cello if that didn't happen? I really have no idea. I mean, and my mom, I think I learned a little song, something very simple on the violin, holding it vertically, but I didn't know what practicing was. I was 2. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the commitment. And I give my mom kudos for wanting me to understand the commitment before I started. So I didn't start until I was 8. So I had a little break from music. I enjoyed music. I heard my sister practicing all the time, but I didn't start playing until I was 8. And from the get-go, I had lessons right away. So I think something about music somehow spoke to me as a baby. Again, I don't really have a recollection of it. I was so young. But I always wonder, if that didn't happen, would I end up playing cello? I don't know. So to answer your question, I think it's a little bit of both. I think often in the arts, you have there's a certain type of magnetism, like you're drawn to something. And I think you are born with a slight inclination for something. Like people that want to go into science, or people that want to go into literature or law or politics. I think you're born it's hard to say. We still don't know a lot about the human mind, but I really think I had a inkling towards music and the arts. But the thing is, you have to cultivate it. And that's why I have a little bit of a hang up on the word talent, because maybe that early age inclination you could call talent, but talent can get you to a certain point. I remember when I was learning, I think maybe 3 or 4 years in, I felt like I hit a huge roadblock, and I really had to work as a kid for it. I had to work, and things were getting harder, techniques were getting more complicated. So I think it's very important to have a teacher right off, because it helps you to avoid bad physical habits, and you have a second opinion of someone with a lot of experience that can kind of guide you and give you a more efficient route to practice and learn. So a little bit of both to answer your question from Instagram. But am I happy? I don't think I would have been this happy doing anything else, to be honest with you. Music fills my life with so many incredible adventures and people. And when I think, like even now, I get a little emotional about it. So that's a sign that I'm doing the right thing, All right, let's keep going with some questions. Doop-a-doop-boop-boop. Scrolling interlude. Boop-a-doop-boop-boop. Oh, someone made a cool comment. I noticed the Baroque repertoire sounds a lot like the harpsichord. Absolutely. The harpsichord really influenced a lot of the music. If you think about modern day, you see string players playing with a piano. Well, back then the harpsichord was like the piano. And I like that you bring that up, because if you hear a harpsichord, excuse me, it has very crisp articulation, but a huge amount of ringing. And from my understanding, the times I've played with a harpsichord, it's very, the decay on a note, if you try to stop the decay on a harpsichord, it's very abrupt. So often you allow the music to ring, I believe, because you would get these sudden drops all the time, whereas a piano is much more delicate and it stay crescendo. And I think that crispness is why I was talking about the swooshing bow. So I get the crispness with the reverb, not... That's very, a very romantic way of playing. Romantic era, not adjective romantic. Although cello can be romantic, you know. Let's keep going. Hello, hello. I see Doll saying hello in the chat. Hello, hello. Doll's from Brazil and Australia. I love it. I love it. Someone wrote, wow, you got taught true adult behavior, including commitment and dedication, not censored before you started to play the cello. What a cool mom you have. Blessed you have been, Meister Carolyn. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I was very lucky to have the parents I had growing up, very supportive. And it's funny because I'm not just saying this because my mom is watching the live stream. I'm serious. I'm very lucky. I mean, even now, you know, she's watching my live stream, very supportive, very lucky. And parents have a huge impact in, how you play music. You know, as a young kid, I couldn't drive myself to lessons or pay for lessons and all of those things. So yeah, that's a really huge factor in growing as a musician. And yeah, it's very sad when you hear about people that didn't grow up with that kind of support or resources and had a difficult time learning. But seriously, I think there are a lot of programs out there that fundraise and things like that. And I think that's incredible that there's a big awareness of the arts now and how it is expensive to do. It is. But I was very lucky to have the support I had and the encouragement I had. So thanks, Mom and Dad. Love you. Next question. What was the learning curve challenging when you started playing on electric cello, especially the position holding of the cello and the non-vibrating feel? Yeah. Oh, I wish I had V here. V is at my new place. I am currently streaming at my old place, which is why on YouTube I forgot my fancy schmancy webcam. I apologize. I'm a little not as focused as usual, but oh, y'all are giving Cello Mom some love. Cello, Mama Cello Doll. That's what I call them, Mama and Papa Cello Doll. You dolls are giving them some great love in the chat. I really like to see that. Thank you. And I'm sure they do too. So the learning curve for electric cello. So if I had V here, you can check out some videos with V on my YouTube channel, so you can probably see it. I knew I would have to practice a little more with the NS because actually, and here's the thing, it is so worth it. I really think it's really worth the practicing, and I really got into practicing my electric actually during the quarantine in 2020. And what I would do is I would practice maybe half an hour on cello, go to my electric, and I would go back and forth to kind of see what the differences are in quick succession and to see how I can adapt. And a lot of it was experimenting, practicing in front of a mirror. And the reason that was needed, I'm going to turn to the side for a second so you dolls can see the, oh, I tapped the mic, I'm sorry. Let me turn to the side. So, when you sit with the cello, when I sit with cello, I have a tilt that is like this. And I never thought you dolls would get to see it, but I'm wearing this, one of my favorite shirts with this awesome back design. And I thought, they're not going to see this. But now you can because I'm turning. So we have this angle. And the thing about the NS that I think is special is you strap it to your body. So the cello is attached to this piece that goes around my waist and then a strap that goes over my shoulder. And it allows me, it doesn't use an end pin, so it allows me to walk around freely when I perform. And all the groups that I have played electric for, I have to stand up. So I thought that would be better for my posture in the long run than to lean over something with an end pin and kind of be stuck like this. So I thought I could still play tall and in a way, good cello posture. From the hips up, you shouldn't be much different than when you're standing. Quick exercise, if you dolls are worried about posture, you sit up straight as well. Try to sit how you do with the cello, and you see how quickly you can stand up and down. You should be able to do it like that. If you try to do that, I mean something's wrong with your posture. Should be the same this way. So I thought, okay, if I get something that straps to me and I'm not leaning over, that's going to help my playing longevity. But the thing with the NS, the angle is deeper. So when I play on the NS, it's more like this. It's a steeper angle. So I'm used to it being like this. It's more like this. So that really took some getting used to. It took a couple weeks of consistent practicing. And the way I adjusted was I played repertoire I already knew. I played Bach on it. I played my scales on it a lot. And that was crucial because I learned the layout of its unique fingerboard and things like that. So that was the biggest thing to get used to, was the steepness of the angle. And I know there's a way you can adjust the instrument. Let me go back to front and center. There is a way you can adjust the instrument and the neck, but I don't know if it's the type of adjustment that I would need. And I'm kind of scared to do it because I have really bad luck with technology sometimes, and I'm just worried that I'm going to mess it up. So, I spent a few weeks, and now it feels pretty natural, honestly, to play with it. Yes, I do have to keep practicing on it, but it's really cool. It's a really cool instrument. I love that I can walk around playing, and not having a tail pin, I'm not going to trip if I walk upstairs, backstage area. So I like the NS. I think it's worth it, worth the adjustment. Good question. But yeah, I just practiced a lot of scales on it to really get the positions, get used to the angle. I also practiced in front of a mirror, which was huge, just to make sure I wasn't contorting my body. And again, playing repertoire, I knew. Technique exercises, I knew. And yeah, being pretty picky with the intonation on it. And also, the bow is different, right? If I'm here, but I'm steeper. You know, the bow is a little closer to my body than an angle out. So, but the thing is, the adjustments were tiny. It just took time to get used to them, but it wasn't like, it didn't feel like I was playing an entirely different instrument. So honestly, I think it is so worth it, my opinion. I love the NS. I'm an NS artist, and I love that instrument. I think it's really cool. All right, another question from the Graham. What kind of cello or other soft chairs do you like to sit on? I wish to get a soft chair with a cushion so that I don't hurt when I sit. Zamba, the fellow cellist. Cool, good question. So I gotta be honest, I have never used, if you go online and you type a cello chair, there are these chairs. There's a couple different versions, but essentially it's a little bit of a tilt like this, where you sit on the edge and it gives you a little bit support back here on your lower back. And I have never used one. I think I tried a friend's, and it feels like I'm gonna fall off the edge. So I have mixed feelings about it, but I know many cellists who swear by them, especially if you are a very tall person. I mean, the people I know that use them are close to 6 feet or more. So something about that might be easier for taller people. I myself am 5'8". So this is what I actually use. Let me show off my chair find. So I found this doing a deep dive on the internet. It's actually considered a generic dining room chair. Like if you were to go into a, I don't know, like a cafeteria at some sort of center, or something at a, I don't know, I can't really describe it. It's kind, oh, like hotel dining chairs maybe. So this is my chair. It's very generic. Sometimes you see them with a skinny rectangular back, but I really like these chairs. I like that, I never thought I would be showing off my chair on a live stream. It's really fun. So the reason I like this chair, oh, you can't really see it on YouTube. Oh boy. So the reason I like this chair, it has kind of a little padding here, and then a little dip and a padding in the back. So I feel support when I sit on the edge, and it's a wider raised part. It's like this, with a little dip and a little raise. So not everything's at an angle. And I also like, I think also especially, depending on how far along you are in learning cello, if you have a chair with a back that is really close to you, it's very tempting to slouch. But on this chair, if you can see, oh, can they see it on YouTube? Yes, okay. If you look at this chair, it's kind of leaned back. It's tilted back. So I'm not tempted to slouch. Like I have to slouch a lot to get to the back of the chair. So, excuse me, I think it's important, but the most important piece again is the cushy lip on the front of the chair. It's about this wide before it tilts down. That cushy lip I think is really helpful. And another thing, if you have a chair you like, they do make wedges. So you can buy a seating wedge, and they kind of look like they're made out of a squishy synthetic material, and it looks like a triangular wedge, or some of them look like a U shape, and you can put them on your chair to support your lower back. I also have been I used a seat cushion for a really long time growing up, just a generic pillow. Not like a pillow you would sleep on, but like a seat, a chair pillow with the 4 buttons in it. Those I used those for a long time. So again, a lot of it's experimenting. This chair, this is not a cheap chair, my dolls. This was probably a $60 or $70 chair. So if you don't want to spend that kind of money, I would recommend experimenting with some cushions. And I hope you don't feel pain much longer. Usually it's lower back support you need. So I hope your practicing gets more comfortable. Alrighty. So I hope that helps. Doop-a-doop-boop-boo. Any more questions? I'm gonna get Chelly. Chelly's mad he hasn't been on the camera for a bit. Okay. Awesome. Great questions, my dolls. Another question. How does learning about the effects affect your sight reading and tempo perceptions? I'm aware that such terms mean different tempi per era. Okay, so this doll is asking about tempo markings, adagio, allegretto, andante, etc. And how does that affect my perception on sight reading? Well, I will say, I actually told this to a student the other day. I said in addition to tempo, and tempo is how fast or slow you play something, it's your speed, you can think of it that way. It also implies a character. So, I'll give you an example. If I saw something that was an adagio means, and also you can kind of relate the tempo markings to one another, like largo is a very recognizable slow tempo, like around 60. An adagio is a little faster, but it's still fairly slow. If I were to play that kind of thing slowly, I might want to do maybe a little more swell. I want it to be lyrical and like a singing voice. Now I'm playing something in the key of G minor, so I'm a little biased to have it be kind of sad and melancholy. But if it was allegro, that's kind of different. Maybe I'll play it maybe a little more insistently, maybe a little, I don't know about anger, but kind of someone very adamant about something, as opposed to now. This is assuming the composer hasn't put an additional marking and small print like pesante or oh, I'm blanking on a common term. It's okay. Sometimes they're even in English, but a lot of them are in Italian or German. So it can affect your character, definitely. So I like to see tempo as also reflecting a character. And also, you can relate the tempos to one another if you're practicing something, I mean, a lot of editions give you a metronome marking, but you kind of have to take those with a grain of salt. A well-known example is Shostakovich. A lot of people play his music slower than it's marked. Not drastically slower, but I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 clicks slower, which I don't know, some people would consider that drastic, but some people theorize that because of the turmoil Shostakovich was going through, he wanted to reflect that emotional hardship in his music by making it almost impossible to play. By having it be so fast and the player getting some sort of anxiety, it kind of becomes like performance art. But of course, people want to honor all the markings and subtle details, and they want to have a beautiful tone and get all these great things out of the music, so a lot of people play them slower. If you're unsure, listen to a bunch of recordings. Listen to other recordings from that time period in that tempo. You know, it's not something I think people should get. I'm trying to think of the right word. I mean, you want to play the character, the tone quality, and the subtle details like crescendos, diminuendos. Those things are most important, I think. And then, you know, listen to other interpretations. I mean, if you play something 80 and I play it 84, you know, that's fine. That's fine. You just want to make sure you're not drastically off the mark. So I hope that helps. I really like to think about tempo markings as being characters. Question from YouTube: can you demonstrate if Roman Kim style harmonics can work on cello? I don't know about Roman Kim. I'm so sorry. I'm not familiar with that style. I can talk about harmonics on the cello briefly, and maybe you can tell me if one of them matches. So quick thing about harmonics on cello, there's natural harmonics and artificial harmonics, and maybe on YouTube you can tell me which one fits. We'll see if I can make it happen without knowing it. So a natural harmonic so if you notice, these are the same note, because parts of the fingerboard are symmetrical with natural harmonics, but in natural, it's specific places you have to learn. D or fourth finger, first position, third finger, fourth position, and then smack in the middle. Also, those are two that are really close and sound the same. An artificial harmonic is when, so up here we call it the nut, where the string essentially stops. And with an artificial harmonic, and this might be more of what you're referring to on YouTube, again, with the natural harmonics, you're limited to a few amount of notes, but with an artificial harmonic, thumb becomes the new nut. So I'm stopping the string with my thumb, stop the string with my thumb, and I touch a note above. And the interval, for those of you who know about intervals, it's a fourth. So So you can play an entire melody in harmonics. So here's the little formula. Thumb, a fourth above, so E, F, G, A. 1, 2, 3, 4. E, F, G, A. And what that does, it takes your thumb note and bumps it up 2 whole octaves. 2 whole octaves. So that's really cool. And I'm going to put something on Instagram for October that's actually a famous excerpt from cello music, and it's played entirely like that. And it's super creepy, perfect for Halloween time. I love it. So I wonder if that's what you mean, if that's a similar effect. You described it as violin player has an artificial harmonic where he makes it sound like a recorder when playing somewhat softly. I'm wondering if that's what it is. And it sounds, and if I don't make it a fourth, there's a lot of possibilities for notes and combinations, but harmonics tend to sound louder on lower strings just because there's more vertical space for it to vibrate. The higher strings are really close to the fingerboard. It's that way for all string instruments, and the lower strings you have more vertical space, so they can resonate. They have more room to vibrate. So So on the lower string, it sounds more like that recorder sound you were referring to. And then I finish the sequence with a natural harmonic that fits the note pattern. Yeah, thank you. I love harmonics. I don't talk about them enough. I actually really, really love using harmonics. It's cool. It's like you transform your instrument into something else. As our doll on YouTube mentioned, kind of like a wind instrument. Your cello can turn into that kind of sound, a wind instrument. I hope that answered your question. Essentially, I don't want to get in trouble for saying this. Most techniques you see on violin, you can do on cello as well. The level of difficulty might change. The way you go about it might be slightly different. Again, we play vertically. Violinists have their instrument horizontal. So a lot of the balance and techniques, the nuanced differences are there for sure. But most of the time, like, I don't even want to give a percentage because I don't want any violinists mad at me. I have dear friends who are violinists, very dear friends. I'm just kidding. They want to be mad. But a lot of the same techniques you can do across all the strings. Now, if a violinist and a double bassist, wide spectrum of range, huge difference in instrument size. If they were to do the same technique, it might look and sound very differently. So I hope I accomplished those violin harmonics you were interested in. Again, the recorder sound, I'm suspecting this person did it on a lower string. And even more so. So I just love harmonics so much. I play them way too often. Yeah. Any final questions for me and Chelly before we end this awesome... Guys, we covered so much ground today, my dolls. We covered Baroque playing to harmonics, which is a modern technique. Well, late Romantic, early modern. Oh, there was something I saw in Instagram, a little story. Someone shared... a conductor told me the professional musician often says, "Don't conduct me, just give me the downbeat. Y'all need to learn to listen to each other first. Then I, the conductor, help. What do you think? You need to listen to each other first. Oh, and then I, as the conductor, help. What do I think? Don't conduct me, just give me the downbeat." I don't think that's very effective conducting. I hate to say it. It depends on the repertoire. I should start with that. I have played very complicated rhythmic music. Big example is Rite of Spring. It is often asked for in conductor auditions because you have time signatures changing every single bar. Every single bar. Let me think. Dun dun dun. The famous example of bum 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 ba da ba da ba 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 da, and those accents are the whole orchestra. And if someone's off, the effect is ruined. So when you have complicated music like that, I've seen conductors give master classes where they say, keep it simple. Give them the downbeats because they're counting like crazy. And if you do something very expressive in that moment, they're going to go, what's happening with my pulse? The pulse, the beats are changing. I need to focus. So in very modern, complicated rhythmic music, I have heard from multiple conductors that simpler is better. Now, if you're playing something like a Brahms symphony and all you do is give the downbeats, it's not going to sound very expressive. And you might think, well, Cello doll, these are all professional musicians. They can play expressively. They can play beautifully. Sure, but the conductor should be a source of encouragement for expressive playing. Again, these are my opinions and things that I have learned working with conductors and seeing conductor master classes. So often, if somebody shows an expressive crescendo, it's usually done much more effectively than if everyone kind of does it at their own pace, right? If you see a crescendo a different way than I see it, the crescendo won't be effective, but if the conductor shows you where the peak is, that's very encouraging and we can all be on the same page for that. So, on the other hand, your conductor makes a great point that you can't rely solely on the conductor. You need to be able to count. You need to listen across your section. You need to listen to other sections. Now, I will say, currently, I do not play under any conductors right now. I do have a band leader, awesome band leader, Dave Perico, Pop Strings Orchestra, fantastic musician. You know, if we have something kind of tough to coordinate, he'll turn to the side and conduct us briefly, but that doesn't happen a lot. Like maybe once a show, and it's for a couple measures. It doesn't happen a lot. And because of that, it's kind of cool because it forces us to listen super intensely as an ensemble, and I can put, you know how they say if you don't use one sense, the other ones are heightened? Because I'm not looking at a conductor, I do feel my ears open up a little bit more. I think in an orchestra, Now, granted, I'm talking about string quartets or 20 people, not a 100-piece orchestra. A 100-piece orchestra, we kind of need a conductor to help us all communicate and to be on the same page with the same pulse. So I think a lot of it, again, depends on your ensemble size, depends on the repertoire you're playing. Again, if I have something that's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, sorry, I'm going to try to conduct. I haven't conducted in a long time. If I have, let's say I have, this is a case with Rite of Spring, I have constant eighth notes, but the time signature is changing. If it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I better have a very simple, crisp conductor helping me rather than 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This, doing this expressive can really disrupt the pulse. Oh my gosh, I really hope there's no conductors screaming at me right now. I really hope not. Oh, I used to do a lot of conducting. I haven't had to do it in a while. Maybe someday I'll get back into it. Yes, my dolls, wow. I can't pick a favorite Cello Tip Tuesday. You dolls really come out and you, the questions just get, I love that you're thinking about this. When I was in the heat of conservatory land, I felt like I wasn't asking enough questions like this. So I think it's amazing that a lot of you are thinking about this. It is so important because the more you learn, yes, you have to practice the instrument and you have to get the technique and the facilities. Yes, yes, yes. That is all super important. And that's why we go in the practice room for hours a day. But the more knowledge you have, if you have more knowledge, that is also going to affect your musical choices and interpretations. And it's all very important. So I love that you are thinking about these things. Baroque playing, working with conductors. These are all great things, really great things to be thinking about. And again, I talk about being in Vegas. I'm playing in a lot of musical situations that I love, and I'm having a blast. But I didn't take a class on playing electric cello or using a pedal board or things like that. So I feel like I'm learning every day too. And I'm telling you this because you can't learn everything overnight. You can't. If you want to be a musician, if you want to play the cello, expect to be learning new things your entire life. It's so exciting. You're never bored. You're never bored. There's always something new to learn. And I don't know why I'm getting on this, but I just see so many, sometimes I see students who feel like I'm never going to learn everything. No, I haven't learned everything. I'm learning new stuff all the time, and I think it's amazing. So just enjoy it, You're going to get great at skills. You're going to accelerate and grow and blossom, and then there's going to be new stuff to learn. So really, what an amazing thing to have a world where you are always learning. Always learning. You can always research. You can always learn different styles of music. That the sky's the limit. It's so exciting. You're never bored. You're always learning. All right, my dolls, I will stop because a lot of you probably got to go practice. Just kidding. I don't know. Maybe you haven't practiced today. Or if you practice tomorrow. Either way, happy practicing, my dolls. You all, I love your support. Thank you all so, so much. You are awesome. And I'll see you next month for our next Cello Tip Tuesday live stream. Bye, my dolls.